Coming towards the end of day 3. Is the volume down a bit? Weather has improved, which makes it more convenient. And the questions keep coming in, so we have a few more to answer. Well, looks like someone's written a book here. Question: how do I master my addiction to my phone? I left my phone behind at home for this retreat. Well, you've done the job. It feels like a relief to now do, it's very small writing, now feels like a relief to now no longer need willpower to resist. This has freed up a lot of mental space and feels joyful, simple and easeful. However, I worry that when I return to my life at home, that there could be a backlash from the addiction. I know apps and websites like YouTube, social media and the news are all designed to be addictive. But understanding the science of addiction to my phone doesn't free me from addiction to my phone. The addiction feeds despair, frustration and shame. I don't want to send away into something away into sickness, old age and death. I find it horrifying how normal and persuasive phone addiction is in society. Even though our phones bring some benefits, that is how they hook us in. As Dhamma practitioners, we have an opportunity for freedom. Please help me achieve ultimate liberation from my phone. After that, let's talk about the next step towards enlightenment. Well, it's probably a question that's relevant to everyone, isn't it? It's the modern challenge, living in the modern world, need a phone, or we don't absolutely need a phone, but they're useful and so much is done online that the phone serves so many useful purposes. I guess you could try doing without a phone and just do your online stuff on a computer, because they're hard to move around. So you can only do it occasionally when you're in front of a computer, and then if you don't have a phone with you, that would mean you're less enslaved to your phone. We didn't get internet and mobile phones here until, can't remember which year, 5 or 6 years ago. Before that, we didn't have much phone signal, so the monastery was very peaceful. Then with COVID, we did a lot more online, as you know, and now Telstra have put a phone signal in, so you can have a phone around the monastery if you're on Telstra. I mean, technology itself is neutral, isn't it? It's not good or bad, it's just science, it's just technology. It's the mind that uses it and how it uses it that's important, just like anything. You can use a car to go here and there, do important business, useful business for you, your family, for society. Or you can use a car to go around doing foolish things, harmful things, or waste a lot of time driving car here and there for not much purpose. Every bit of technology in our life is like that. You have to think how you're going to use it, maybe form some plans and some guidelines for yourself, and maybe if you've got kids, help them, because they're the ones who are suffering most, because they're just forming their addiction without even recognizing it. It just becomes part of their life from what age? 3 years old, 4 years old. As soon as they can hold it, they'll play with it. So like everything, we need guidelines, discipline. That's part of sila, isn't it? So the first thing with a phone is keep the 5 precepts, just as you try to in other aspects of your life. So try not to use your phone to hurt others, cheat others, abuse others, bully others, to steal, to kill. I guess you could ring someone up and order a hit on someone. But you can use it for a lot of verbal or text messages that are very unkind, cruel, untrue. So the 5 precepts, which is a basic for all Buddhists and all people intending to pursue the Buddhist path, that's something you're learning anyway. So you introduce that to how you use the phone. And then you need to see how you can, like you say, stay in charge of the phone rather than letting the phone take you over. So you have to be able to learn to put it down for certain things, like you've done. The one asking this question, you've put it aside for this retreat, and that's a really useful thing. That's something that retreats can help you with. Get used to being without a phone. Like here we have a monastery phone, everyone can find that number online, so you can tell your family and friends, any emergency, ring the monastery or the organisers. That's partly how we do it, so you don't have to use a phone. And then you can taste what it's like setting a phone aside, and you'll probably find you get all kinds of new pleasant experiences, like noticing nature, trees and birds and fresh air, even rain, which can be inconvenient. When you're mindful of rain, it's quite pleasant, isn't it? It's quite nice to just be in the rain or witness the rain, the sounds, the smells, how the smells of the ground and the forest change when it rains. If you're always on a phone, you're not going to notice that. But when you're without a phone, you start noticing your sense contact more. You're more sensitive. And then you can notice how you react to things. I mean, the phone itself is one form of sense contact, so you can also be mindful and reflective when you use it, but like you say, it's very absorbing, and you often your mind is going out to the screen and the information to the point where you're no longer mindful. So if you put the phone down on retreat, then you get all these new experiences, you have that sense of independence, you get a new perspective. You see, oh, phone is not absolutely essential to happiness or to my life. I can put it down. When you return home, you've got to plan it. How are you going to use your phone? A really good one is plan to turn it off at night. What time are you going to turn it off so that you can maybe meditate or chant before you go to bed, and just go to bed without a phone. You know how people are reaching for the phone at all times. If you have a problem with addiction, then turn it off at certain times is a really good practice. And do activities and consciously put your phone off, turn it off, or put it away for certain activities, so you get in the habit that you don't have to have it with you. Maybe think it through. When did you last have an emergency that required you to use your phone? It's probably not very often, most of the time you use a phone, it's a choice and it's convenient, but there's no absolute need for it. So you get that perspective, oh, I don't absolutely need my phone, so I can put it down. When you need it, you use it, and it can be a useful means to communicate and do things. But you also want to be able to have that choice. So mindfulness and then wise reflection allows you to choose how to use it, when to use it. The precepts give you guidelines, what you're looking at, what you're doing, the kind of communication you're having. And if you meditate regularly, well, you'll know about putting your phone down for that. You don't want the phone ringing in your meditation. So you just get used to treating it as a useful thing, but also something you can set aside. And that's your goal. Sometimes you make rules for yourself to help you do that and achieve that. You don't have to know everything that's going on in everybody's life. All the things people text and send to each other, of course it can be a means to be friendly and supportive in different situations. So it's not wrong, but how much do we overuse it? And if you're texting your friend, I'm stuck at the traffic lights, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Do they really need to know that? I'm at the restaurant ordering my food today, this is what I'm eating, and you send a photo. Do they really need to know? Depends on you and your relationships and everything, of course, but try not to overuse it. Don't let the phone run your life. Try to stay in charge, and that's where mindfulness, wise reflection helps you. And there's many other things in life we get problems with, like, say, food is another one. You've got an opportunity on retreat, you're just eating in the morning, and you reflect, like we have this thing we recite, the monks recite, wisely reflecting, I use alms food, not for fun, not for pleasure, not for fattening, not for beautification, only for the maintenance and nourishment of the body, for keeping it healthy, for helping with the practice. I use it to reduce the feelings of hunger, and I will try to eat without overeating. That reflection helps you get a wise attitude towards food. So you need food, but you're not indulging in it as an entertainment. You're not overeating, you're trying to eat just healthy food from whatever's available. So retreat is a good time to learn about how to treat food wisely and see it is just medicine for the body. It's not entertainment and it's not an end in itself. Same with clothes, just wearing simple clothes, white clothes, not looking to make a fashion statement in the monastery. The most fashionable white clothes. You're not thinking about, hair, makeup, jewelry, all the kind of extras of life. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have, people always say, oh, I have to go to work, I have to dress up for work, keep up appearances, because society is like that and there's a lot of pressure. So you've got to wear certain clothes, makeup, jewelry, hairstyle, all this. But you don't here, so you can get a rest from that and you can focus more on the Dhamma because you can set aside your external appearance. Accommodation, you've got your tent. You're just learning to live in a tent. It's simple, it keeps the rain off for most of the time. Most of the people. Somebody said, my tent does a really good job, Ajahn, of keeping the rain off most of the time. Okay, so we've had a few heavy rains, but you're just learning to get by with the minimum. You have a simple mattress, simple tent, and you can survive. And you don't have to do a lot of cleaning and maintenance. It's fairly straightforward. When you get home, your home will be like a palace, be like a 5-star hotel. And you'll wonder, oh, got so much space here, got bathroom, bedroom, lounge, kitchen. Oh. But after a while at home, with all the bills and the cleaning and the maintenance, you'll be missing your tent, perhaps. The idea is to reflect on it, see what you really need in life, and not become a slave. Sure, it's convenient having a house, but don't get obsessed with it or addicted to it, to the comforts. Clothing, food, you're learning what are the necessities of life. What they call pacaya, just the basics of life. If you've got that sorted, then you can meditate, you can practice, you're okay. This is like being a monk or a nun. And if there's extra, additional, fine, but you get the right attitude, so that all these things don't just become, you're not endlessly seeking new, better, bigger. You learn how to be content with what you got. Something Ajahn Chah talked about a lot, be content, easy to look after. So if you understand that with the basic requisites, well, you can apply the same thinking to a phone. So it's a tool to aid you in your life, for communication, storing info, for expressing Dhamma. Even, as you know, I send Dhamma teachings out on the phone. At the moment we're doing Facebook Live. Probably some people use their phone to see that, listen to Dhamma. You can use the phone for many good things, but reflect on it so that it's just a tool that you can pick up, put down when you need to. It's not running you, you're running it. It's not in charge of you, you're in charge of it. That has to come through mindfulness-wise reflection. And when you're mindful, you can choose, can't you? Because you're aware, and you say, oh, I actually don't need it now. Turn it off, put it down. It's the same with all aspects of the material world, where you're learning to establish mindfulness and reflect on what we use, how much we use, when we use things, when we do things. And there's a lot of stuff we don't need. Other addictions, like, why don't we, as Buddhists, why do we keep the 5 precepts? We don't drink or take drugs. Well, because they're very addictive. And you lose your mindfulness, you lose your wisdom. So you stay sober when you don't drink. Then you can meditate well. Why don't we gamble? Because gambling is a slippery slope to debt and all kinds of stress and suffering. There's all kinds of things that you can get addicted to in this world, but you need mindfulness and wise reflection to deal with that, to steer away or keep away from some things, to avoid them, or to be very careful with some things when you're tempted. And the phone is the same. You be careful with it. Make your plan, make your rule for yourself. And it's not just for you, it's also for others, isn't it? You've got kids. If you have kids, if you learn how to be disciplined and use your phone well, you can pass that knowledge on to them. Because they're struggling, they're going to be addicted to their phone and use it for all kinds of not so skillful stuff sometimes. You can help if you've learned how to run your phone and manage it well, then you can pass that on to them. Give them a whole new perspective. Their friends will say, oh, just do this, do this. You can say, well, actually, you don't need a phone for everything. Actually, you can put your phone down. You don't need to look at all that stuff. Somebody's got to tell them the other side of the story, otherwise they'll never hear it. Another question. Luang Por, last night you mentioned about going inward and watching the body from inside. Can I apply this to watching the breath? When I go inward, I feel some peace and equanimity. It is easier to meditate. The breath is more natural and less controlled. However, the breath is no longer present at the tip of the nose, rather throughout the body and sound. Is this all right? Well, as ever, it's kind of boring, but number one, you need to be mindful, need to be aware, and our effort in practice is to bring up mindfulness. So usually we use an object or a technique to do that. So that's why we might use the breath, to know the breath as it goes in, goes out. So just to do that, you usually have to pick a spot to start with. But you've got choice, so it could be the abdomen, could be the chest, center of the chest, or the lungs, could be the tip of the nostrils. And you're becoming aware of the in and out breath, the sensation of air touching the nostrils, or the lungs moving and expanding, contracting, abdomen rising, falling. You've got to start somewhere. So through experimentation you pick one spot. Having tried a few, you might pick one spot and you stick with it and become skilled in it as best you can by doing it regularly, do it often. As the Buddha said, do it a lot. Bhavita bahulikata. So that you get really familiar with what it feels like when the breath is coarse, refined, long, short, fast, slow. You get used to all that by practicing a lot. And you get used to letting go of the hindrances, as I was talking about earlier, which will keep coming up, disturbing you, sure, but sometimes you'll get better at letting them go, and your mind will stay with the breath more. So you're keeping the breath in mind. That's what you're knowing, that's what you're paying attention to, so everything else you can let go of during that time. And when you're doing it well, that's what will happen. You won't be thinking about tomorrow, yesterday. You won't be thinking about an itch or a pain in your body. You won't be thinking about memories and thoughts that pop up. You might notice them, but you let them go. So your mind gets to know the breath more and more and more. So if it's at the tip of the nostril, all your mental energy and physical energy is flowing to this one area. If that's where you're focusing, it tends to become cool, peaceful. Gradually that whole energy will also flow around your body as you become more still. Your mind becomes more still. The body is still. Your mind is still. You may notice, the energy, the breath energy flowing around the whole body. And again, you can experiment a bit. So, once you're more mindful of the breath may be very refined, but you're still with it. Well, it's not that difficult to take a trip around your body internally because you're mindful. You're not going to suddenly think about all kinds of other things or fall asleep because you're mindful. So you may be very aware of energy moving around the body. Occasionally it happens all by itself, so you're with the breath in one point, but then you notice energy flowing to a particular area in the body. It could be where there's pain or illness or some problem. Sometimes you notice you've got very little energy. If you're very tired, you'll notice, and we have a joke, we say, in Thai we say, "Lửa de vinyan." So like if you're really tired, it means all that's left is the ghost. All your physical energy is gone. Say you've been working all day or you haven't slept much. You're still with the breath, but you're now aware that the breath is very weak, refined, your body is very weak. It's like you're just a ghost of a person at that point. But you can still be mindful of that. It's just oh, now I'm very weak. Then other times you feel very strong, energetic, and you notice the good energy flowing around the body. You're not necessarily controlling any of this, you're just witnessing how your body is, how it feels, how the breath is. When your mindfulness and the breath merge and get really firmly together from moment to moment to moment, and you're not distracted, you're not thinking of other stuff, your breath can even turn into light, say. As people know, when your mind is very peaceful and still, bright, radiance of the mind comes up sometimes. Your mind is very bright, like someone's turned a light on. Even the breath can seem to flow around the body as light, wisps of light or rays of light. People have all kinds of experiences like that because they're now with the breath within their body and they're not distracted. And sometimes it's like a spotlight has been turned on also, and your mind kind of is aware, or the mind has become very bright, like a spotlight, or like the sun. You don't have to look at the light or think about the light or discuss it in your mind. What is this light? Is it a good light, a bad light? Do I like it? I don't like it. Just observe. The whole point is you're aiming to be mindful, equanimous, just knowing, witnessing. But you'll notice changes in the body and the mind as you become more mindful of the breath, and your mindfulness becomes more continuous, the mind becomes still, the factors of samadhi arise. Vitaka, vichara, piti, sukha, ekakada. Piti at first is very kind of a little bit disturbing, because you get waves of energy up and down. Sometimes feels like the wind inside you, or insects crawling all over you, and your hair stand on end, tears go in your eyes, all kinds of things. Sometimes you feel like you're kind of lifting off like a rocket or something. Sometimes your parts of your body disappear. Sometimes your whole body seems to disappear, and there's just the mind is left, and the body, you can't feel it. These are examples of piti or rapture, which is one of the 5 factors of samadhi. And at first it's new, so you're curious, and that can distract you, start thinking about it, get lost, forget your meditation object, so it can even become a problem for a while. But if you keep practicing, you get used to it, so then you don't think about it, you just notice, oh, there's some rapture there. And it's very sustaining quality of mind. You feel full. It's one aspect of rapture, you feel full. Just like food fills you up so you're not hungry, rapture fills your mind up so you're not bored, distracted. If piti is there, you don't get angry. If you're not angry and irritated, well, you can carry on. Even if you've got pain, if there's piti there, you can be with pain because you're not getting angry or upset about it, you're just knowing it. Sukha is even more intense. Pleasure, contentment, it's enjoyable, you're at ease, you're happy. Ekakata is unification of mind. So it will unify maybe here, at the tip of the nostrils, or here at the chest. So you have all these experiences gradually arising sometimes. Sometimes they arise very quickly and strongly. Sometimes you practice for ages and you just get a little bit. And sometimes it just seems hopeless. But keep going, and your mind's energy will come back eventually. But when you're practicing with the breath or other meditation objects, your attention turns inwards. You're letting go of the world. You're not thinking about all this other stuff you normally think about. And even your senses are not too disturbed, so you hear the sound of other people, or birds, or planes and cars. It's not bothering you. You may have pain, aches and pains in your body, but it doesn't bother you, because the whole point is you're concentrating the mind on one object, the breath. So the breath seems to fill your whole mind, which means it seems to fill your whole body as well, because your attention is turned inwards. Occasionally the body seems to be totally gone, there's just the mind. And you get a real rest from everything. And when your body starts to come back to you, you notice things about your body again, you see the body slightly differently each time that happens. You say, oh, this body is very kind of heavy, doesn't feel so good, there's aches and pains, you feel you're very sensitive when you're in samadhi or coming out of samadhi. Upajjhara samadhi, you can sense your body. In jhana you can't, but in Upajjhara samadhi you'll sense your body, so you hear your stomach gurgling and you feel your breath coming back and aches and pains and itches, and you'll notice the suffering of a human body. It's like it's heavy, it feels too hot, too cold. All the suffering associated with the body comes back, and you notice it very clearly because you're coming from a place where you've just let go of your body. Now you're back. Oh. Which helps you to see the true nature of a human body, is it's full of suffering. It has all kinds of pain, gets tired, hungry, feels hot, cold. It's actually very rarely does it feel kind of neutral and okay. The more mindful you are, the more you notice this body is full of suffering. And samadhi really reveals that to you. Without having to try anything, you're just making your mind quiet, you notice the suffering of the body. But noticing it with mindfulness and wisdom is not reacting with aversion or getting upset or depressed. You just notice, oh, it's like that. And then, of course, you've got all the mental stuff to reflect on as well, feeling, memories and perceptions. But maybe I'll leave that for another question. So, don't know if I fully answered the question there, but gave you something to go on. Dear Ajahn, how to learn to be brave? Would you please advise of any meditation object to focus on or technique? Well, any meditation object will make you braver. If it's something coming within the Buddhist system of practice, I can't speak for other systems. The first sort of factor that makes you a bit bolder and braver probably is faith. You get confidence from having faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, hearing the teachings. The teachings make sense. They bring up a sense of, I want to practice this. The Buddha's words make sense. They seem to be very helpful. One aspect of faith and confidence is you feel bolder, you feel emboldened and willing to try something maybe you haven't tried before, like meditation. One of the biggest obstacles to meditation is just the fear that, oh, I can't do it, it's too difficult, it's going to be painful, my legs hurt, I've never done it before, what's going to happen? All those kind of doubts are very common. And so they say the hardest part of meditation is beginning, just getting to start. But if you have faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, teachers, that helps you to overcome your hesitation, your doubt maybe. So you try it. So you're already a bit more brave then. Same with precepts. At first, maybe no one around you in your life keeps the precepts. Maybe you don't have any practicing Buddhists in your family or circle of friends. Then you read or hear the Dhamma, you want to try keeping 5 precepts or even 8 precepts. You have to be bold, you have to be brave to do that, don't you? Because you're trying something that maybe you haven't fully explored or done before, and no one else is saying it's a good idea. I mean, they may even be against it. That was my experience. Not drinking, nobody in my social group supported that. The people I knew, most of them were would happily kill a fly or even go hunting or fishing or something. Stealing, well, most of the people I think I grew up with, they say, robbing a bank or mugging someone is bad. But maybe small scale petty theft is okay, sort of thing young people might do. So I had to keep the second precept. I had to be strong in my commitment because not everyone around me was being totally honest, fiddling their taxes, doing this, doing that. That's quite normal in society, isn't it? People don't keep the precepts. Third precept, there's always someone around who's cheating or willing to cheat. You go to work and you've got a partner, but your friend says, "Oh, look at her, look at him," and people will be egging each other on. Sometimes there's lots and lots of temptation, and sometimes even pressure to break precepts. So you have to be strong. So you have to be brave to keep them. It's not easy, certainly at first. Your own mind has doubts, other people have doubts, other people may criticize you, your own mind might say, "Oh, what's the point?" But the whole point is you become braver by doing it and then seeing the result. You say, "Oh, but you feel good. When you keep the precepts, there's no feelings of guilt, regret, you actually feel quite at ease, quite happy. Maybe you discover new qualities of mind you never discovered before. You being kind to people, being honest, not abusing people, being rude, bullying, being sober if you've not been sober before, and so on. You get all these new experiences which hopefully inspire you and make you braver in the way of the Dhamma. Not braver as you can go out and fight people or something, but braver in doing good and keeping precepts. Definitely it makes you more confident in the sense that you feel confident that you know your own intention, you know your own mind, and you get stability of mind, you get a good state of mind from that, which makes you more confident and you might say braver. Makes you happier in yourself. So you get self-respect, self-esteem, which is another part of being brave. And of course, if you practice mindfulness, your mind gets stronger, but mindfulness also supports wisdom and understanding. If you're paying attention, you learn better and you understand things better because you're paying attention, because you're mindful. So when you're mindful and heedful, you also become braver because you're more aware of things, you're more confident of yourself, more self-respect, and then you're confident that you can make a good choice in a situation. So if you need to be brave, facing some challenge, difficulty, you can because you're mindful, you have more self-control, more understanding of things. As I said, it doesn't necessarily mean you're brave in the sense you can go out and fight the world or something, but you're brave in looking after yourself and doing that which is good and furthering your understanding of truth and Dhamma. So when monks go into the the forest, they don't have weapons and protections and things, they just have their precepts and their meditation object and their faith in the Buddha but that gives you a certain warmth and strength of mind to face whatever challenges going out into the forest, particularly if you go on your own or some remote place, particularly maybe in Asia where there's more wild animals, more disease, more obstacles. You have all of your practice of sila, samadhi, panya to rely on, and that makes you brave. So you meet the wild animal, you're not thinking of hurting it or fighting it, but you say, well, I'm not here to do anything bad, evil, I'm not here to hurt the wild animal. So if anything bad is going to happen, that must just be old karma coming up. I might have to accept that, but I'm not out here to hurt this animal if you meet one. So it makes you more stable and calm in yourself to meet that problem. Or if you get ill, you have your faith, your sila, your mindfulness to deal with that illness. You may still get medical treatment as well, but you don't have so much fear and worry about the illness. You become braver because you've got the Dhamma to rely on as a refuge. Or you meet bad people, threatening people, aggressive people or something, you fall back on the Dhamma, that you're not there to hurt them or do anything bad, wrong. So that makes you kind of brave in that situation. And you may still run away. You can be brave and run away if that's what's required. Sometimes it is. But you're not doing things so much out of fear, because fear can be very deluding and make us make wrong decisions or act carelessly or irrationally. When you have the Dhamma in all the practice of the Dhamma, you're developing the faith, the sila, the mindfulness, the insight. That makes your mind strong, confident, braver to face the challenges of life. So all of the practice will help you to become braver. And if you know how to let go, then what is the opposite of being brave? Well, it's being afraid, cowardly, confused, weak in different ways. You let go of all the negative stuff from your mind, the unskillful mind states. If you know how to let them go, then what's left is the good stuff. So people who have practiced the Dhamma and learn how to let go naturally become braver. Because if you're not giving in to fear, you've let go of fear, you're brave. Doesn't mean to say you're aggressive or something. It just means you're not following the bias of fear in your behavior. So the more you practice, the more the way you look at the world changes, doesn't it? You see, say, if you do meet the wild animal or the aggressive person, rather than meeting them with fear, you may still be on your guard and you have to be careful, but you feel sorry for them because you see they're suffering. If they're being aggressive or doing something not very skillful, you know they're making karma. So you don't feel afraid, you feel sorry for them. You have compassion. So wisdom will generate compassion. These are different aspects of the mind that is braver, bolder in the Dhamma. You see this all the time, say with monks who have practiced for many years, they're not worried about hardship, not getting what they want. They're very good at being patient and brave with situations like illness, didn't have any food, had to go without food, go without sleep, go without comforts. Nobody's praising you, nobody's making a fuss of you. The world has forgotten you and you're in the deep forest all on your own. It doesn't matter. You learn to let go. Don't need all these things. If you don't have a mobile phone, you're okay. You can survive. Dear Ajahn, can you please share how to do walking meditation, i.e. what to note? How about the thinking when doing walking meditation? Well, you're right. Walking meditation, you need to put your mind somewhere to start with. You need to pick an object. So we usually teach, be aware of the pressure of the feet touching the ground. Even if you're wearing shoes, you can be aware of that. The pressure, stepping down, and then the lifting, stepping down, lifting, stepping down, lifting. You find people often at first, when they first practice walking meditation, they go quite slowly because they're really learning what it's like, feeling the feet touching the ground, lifting. And because it's a new experience, trying to be mindful of walking, sometimes people are walking slowly and then they fall over. Because they're not used to being mindful of walking, and they start, like you say, they start thinking about it, and it's like, they lose their balance. It's just like the breathing, same. You know, you can normally walk fine. Well, you're just going somewhere, you just walk there, no problem. But as soon as you're doing mindfulness of walking, you lose your balance, you're not steady on your feet, you bump into something, and you're like, what happened? Or it's like you're doing mindfulness of breathing. Now you're focusing so much on the breath, you start coughing and choking because you're trying to be mindful of your breath. It's like, normally I breathe and no problem. Why am I having this problem? You're attaching too much. Sometimes we try too hard. So you also have to relax a bit as you do it, as you're walking, as you're breathing. But try to be mindful of the feet touching the ground, the lifting, and many people will find other objects to help. So the recitation of chanting or the word Buddha is very good. Just keeps you there as you're walking, mindful of your feet and the lifting and placing down of your feet. You may chant, and that keeps you in the present moment. The Buddha said, cast your eyes in front of you a few meters, the distance of a plough. Whatever that distance is. I think someone measured it 1.8 meters on average, or 2 meters, let's say. So pick a spot 2 meters in front and just watch there. Keep your eyes down. Of course, if a kangaroo jumps in front of you, well, you can watch and stop and adjust. Or another person is coming, you can look around a bit. You don't have to be kind of weird about it, but generally you cast your eyes in front of you, and if you're walking back and forth, and the Buddha would do this a lot, so why not do it? He would walk maybe 15 meters, 20 meters even, back and forth. So your eyes are in front of you, you're walking up to the end of your path, you stop, you turn round, you walk back, putting your attention on the feet, moving of the feet, the pressure of the feet, maybe reciting Buddha or something else, keeping your eyes down, hands in front. You always see Luang Por Man walking with his pictures of him with his hands in front like this, because it helps to maintain a sense of restraint, mindfulness. But it's not essential. If you've been doing a lot of walking and you like to have your arms at the side, it's okay, it's not wrong, or arms at the back, it's okay. But if you want the classic arms in front of you, hands touching, and you just walk up and down, pausing at the end of each, when you reach the end of your path, turn, walk back. Even in one period of walking, you'll notice you might have different moods or thoughts come up, depending on where you are on your path. So maybe at that end you can see things that you can't see at this end. So when you get to that end, your mind wants to look, you're interested to look at the world, other people, what's going on. Then you come back, This end you can't see much, so you don't think of looking. You notice how your mind is changing depending on where you are in your path. If you're doing it a lot, maybe you start getting to the end, that end where you can see things, and you start getting excited. What will I see? Who's going to be there? Or what's going on? Can also go the other way, like if you're walking at night, maybe you have a light in the middle of your path. You're walking and you get to the end of your path and it's dark. And you might get the fear come up. I've had this many times in the forest. If there's things around in the forest, if you can't see because it's all dark out there, you know, when you get back to your light, halfway along your path, you feel really happy, next to the light. Your light is like your best friend. And as you walk further away from the light, it's like, and you get right to the end and you can't see anything. It's like, what's there? Is there anything there? Oh dear. Then you turn around and you get back to the light, happy again, and then back to the dark, not happy. Just like light, dark, happy, not happy. You see, your mind changes very easily. So even in one walking path, you have different experiences of how you're relating to the world around you and how you're being mindful of your senses. And then, of course, thoughts will come up any time. So you're walking up and down, you'll remember stuff. So you have to be restrained, mindful, careful. Your aim is to go back to the feet or to the Buddha, not to get lost in the train of thought. You note it, but let it go. The memory, the image, mental image comes up, let it go, contemplate it maybe as impermanent. It's just a thought, it's just a feeling. Maybe you have sensations in your body, it's hot, it's cold, there's wind, there's this, there's that. Just note it, but don't get lost in all these things. Just note them and try to maintain equanimity using the walking posture. And you find if you keep doing it, after a while maybe your mind settles down, you get quite into it. Time flies quickly and you're not bored and you're not thinking about what you're going to do next. You just get absorbed into your walking. If that really happens, you can go for an hour or two without feeling like any time has passed at all. An hour can seem like 5 minutes. You just get into it. And I know many monks, they can walk like 3 hours at a time, even longer. I used to have one friend who could walk 8 hours. Just walking back and forth. He said he'd get into this point where his mind and body just became so light, so happy, he could just keep walking. Back and forth, back and forth. But obviously that is unusual. Most people, if they get into it, they can walk for an hour. Just an hour, back and forth. And just learn to let go of everything else. But as stuff comes up in your mind, well, reflect on it. Could be a wholesome thought, or maybe it's a thought of Dhamma. Okay, you may develop that without too much disturbance, reflecting on impermanence, or maybe the thought of peace, or you think of the Buddha, or the thought of metta, compassion comes up. Well, maybe you can develop that thought as you're walking, and it doesn't disturb you much. But most of the thoughts are disturbing. They're hindrances, distraction, desire, aversion, doubt, worry. So try and notice when it's a hindrance. This is a hindrance, let it go. Return to your meditation object. And the Buddha said if you practice walking meditation, your samadhi gets very strong, and when you finish the walking and go off and do other things, your samadhi will stay strong. It's one of the advantages. When you're sitting, everyone has the problem. You sit and you might sometimes get quite peaceful. And as soon as you get up, walk away, it all fades away and it's like, back to square one. But when you're walking and you stop walking and you go off and do some other activity, often the mindfulness and the samadhi goes with you, the sense of continuity. You can practice vipassana, just contemplate impermanence of your sense contact, thoughts, contemplate not self, the conditioned thing, you hear a sound, there's a feeling, there's a thought coming, you're seeing this conditioned nature of experience. You're developing the ability just to witness or know your experience rather than kind of always thinking about it, liking, disliking, judging. Developing this, we call it the internal witness, as much as you can. The Buddha said walking meditation is good for health, keeps you slim, uses up energy, helps the food digest, so it's a good thing to do after lunch, because after lunch it's hard to sit because you're sleepy, you've got a stomach full of food. Do some walking. It's good for when you're tired, you know, like late at night, early in the morning, you can't sit, you're too sleepy, we'll do some walking. There's many, many advantages. So I recommend, you know, putting effort into walking as well as sitting. So still some more questions, but I'll leave this much tonight, and tomorrow we can carry on.